people on YouTube. I'm actually at a friend's house in Chico at the moment. I've been here for close to 5 days or a week. And mostly that's because they're doing road work on the road and I can't get my car out of the driveway because it's so low to the ground. Their Subaru can handle the dips, but mine cannot. So yeah, it'll be a couple days before I'm out of here. That's just a little background of where I am at the moment. This is kind of a similar, kind of a remake of my earlier video, centering and grounding one. I'm going to try to keep it down to close to 10 minutes long. See how that works out. 10 to 15 minutes long so I can just have no trouble uploading it on YouTube. But anyway, I was explaining this to someone before and it was very succinct. I didn't write it down what I explained to him, but I'll see if I can just kind of put it into words that are as succinct and as really good as they were at that time before. But anyway, he didn't know what centering or grounding is. He had no idea. He's 16, has no idea what it means. So while we were walking around, I kind of explained to him the basics. And that's basically what this video is supposed to be about. Just a basic definition of what I believe grounding and centering are. Or centering and grounding. But anyway, in the case of, let's just start with a little bit of background of some of my beliefs in general. I take centering and grounding in more of a kind of scientific or logical standpoint, not as mystical as some people I know. The way I view it is that we're all energy, and all our thoughts and actions and everything, whenever we do something or put our minds on something, we put our energy out there or onto that thing. And if we don't take that energy back, we tend to stretch ourselves out and get a little bit scattered and lose a lot of that energy and can't put as much energy as we would want onto other things. Okay, and that's basically what I believe. And that fragmenting of our energy is what makes grounding and centering so important. And centering, I think, centering and grounding are completely different things from each other, but they're interconnected in some ways. What I believe centering is when you take your energy that you've scattered around and you basically bring it back to where it belongs and defragment it like you would your computer. And that's basically it. That's what I believe. And when you're grounding, you're basically balancing out the energy you've gathered while centering, or you've gathered it in a, or you're taking the energy that is around you and that you've gathered, or wherever you've got the energy. And it's especially important before and after you do a magical working or anything to do with energy gathering. Grounding is where you balance all that out, where you don't have any excess, and also you have enough to actually do what you want to be doing. And it not only removes the excess into the earth or into the sky, but it also opens something called a taproot. I've heard it called a taproot, where its second function, which I didn't really hear about in a lot of circles. This may be just me in my naivety, but the second use for grounding is to make sure that your energy doesn't tap out, like you don't get burnt out, like you have a constant connection to the earth or the sky and say, okay, I'm doing something right now and I think I need this amount of energy, but just in case it's not enough and I run out, I want this taproot into the earth or into the sky energy to make sure that I don't run out and burn out. And that's basically my definition of centering and grounding. And I believe that would be the end of the video. I could actually tell you some techniques that I use. I personally use breathing patterns when I'm meditating or when I'm centering and when I'm grounding. I center and ground at least weekly, as I've said before. I have a meditation class that I go to, and I at least do that weekly, because I tend to get very, very scattered, and scattering is not good. It tends to make keeping your concentration on one thing very hard to do, and it tends to make you sound like a absolute airhead most of the time when you're talking and suddenly you go off on tangents. I've actually just meditated, so I'm a lot more grounded and centered than I sometimes am. I'm actually looking at the camera. And yeah, those breathing techniques are really helpful, especially for someone with my personality. I'm also an air sign, Aquarius, so I'm stuck in my thoughts a lot, and I tend to go off on tangents, and I'm a bit of a scatterbrain. So grounding and centering are really important for someone like that. And it even can be important for someone with conditions like ADD or ADHD. I personally have no experience with those, but now that I think of it, they might have some real value to those kinds of people. Meditation and grounding and centering on a daily basis, maybe. But anyway, the techniques that I use, they're really simple, and I'm not really a visualization person. I know there are some people that really love those visualizations or those guided meditations on YouTube, but I really have issues with visualization because I haven't been meditating long, and I just don't have enough practice, or I'm just not that kind of person. But anyway, the techniques that I use for centering. The breathing pattern that I use is a 4x4 breathing technique, and what that means is that I breathe in for 4 counts, and I hold for 4 counts, and then I breathe out for 4 counts, and then I hold for 4 counts, and it continues in that pattern. And what actually happens, at least in my mind, is it's kind of imagining a vortex of energy drawing in all your energy and cutting all those cords that you've put into your life that are no longer needed, and taking that energy back, taking your power back, so you can once again put those cords out there on things that you need and are actually important at this time. Okay, and the grounding breathing technique that I use, I actually got this all from a book called Psychic Protection. I can't remember the author. I'll put it in the footnotes when I'm done. But I got all these breathing techniques from her book, and I've seen it in a couple other places, but I'll put that all in the notes. Speaking of tangents. But anyway, the grounding breathing technique that I use is a little bit, well, it's a little bit more complicated, but not much. It's a 4 by 6 by 6 breathing pattern. And what that means is that I breathe in 4 again, like the centering, and then I breathe out 6 counts, and then I hold for 6 counts, and then I continue in that pattern continue in that pattern until I feel grounded. And what actually the image that pops up for me is a triangle. I have no idea the implications of a triangle, but the triangle just kind of pops up, and this is the first thing that pops up into my mind when I'm grounding. And it also reminds me of a tree image where you're taking in sunlight and from the earth and into the trunk and all that. But yeah, I continue that breathing pattern until I feel grounded and centered and completely in the physical realm, and then I'm perfectly fine for the rest of the day. For the rest of the week even. But during stressful situations, I do it more. But usually at least do it once a week, for me at least. I've heard it recommended that you meditate or you ground and center at least twice a day. If you want to do that, that's fine. If it works for you, that's great. But I seem to get by with at least once a week. Okay, well that's the end of that video, and I actually got it done. Let's see how long it actually is. Alright, well it was nice talking to you, and see you another time.